Episode 102, Tempting Little Bun to Speak. Can you stay tonight? In Ningxi's arms, Little Bun rubbed against her without any attachment, blinking his eyes at her as if afraid that she might disappear if he blinked. Ningxi felt a pang of heartache at the sight. She kissed each of Little Bun's cheeks. Aunt Xiaoxi is here for real, not in a dream. Daddy brought Aunt Xiaoxi to see you because you were sick. Little Bun, who had been kissed twice, blushed, and his previous unease was dispelled. Shyly, he pursed his lips and returned a kiss to Ningxi. Ningxi covered her face, feeling so happy that she thought she might win an Oscar for this feeling. Looking at Little Bun's eyes that seemed as if they could speak, Ningxi wanted to spend more time doting on him. However, she knew that many people were anxiously waiting outside, so she said, "Darling, are you hungry? Auntie will take you to eat something, okay?" Little Bun nodded obediently. "Wait a moment, Auntie will help you get dressed." Ningxi carried Little Bun to the closet and began picking out clothes for him. "Do you want to wear this one?" Little Bun glanced at the closet and pointed to a cartoon hoodie that Ningxi had bought for him. Just as Auntie expected." After helping Little Bun put on the clothes, Ningxi carried him out. As soon as they stepped out, they received the attention of everyone. The little guy who had been lying in bed barely breathing the night before, now wore a brightly colored outfit, held by Ningxi. His eyes were also much more lively, appearing as if he had changed into a different person. The servants who were waiting on the side couldn't help but think in unison, indeed, a child with a mother is like a treasure. Watching their grandson wake up, his handsome and adorable appearance, Yenrui's eyes turned red. Little Bun is awake. Quick, come over and eat. You must be hungry after not eating for so long. Lu Chongshan also urged, don't just stand there, let's all sit down and eat. At the dining table, Lu Chongshan sat at the head, Lu Tingxiao on his left, and originally, Lu Chongshan wanted Little Bun to sit on his other side. However, the little guy turned his head, immediately hugged Ningxi's neck, and refused to let go. In the end, Lu Tingxiao pulled the chair beside him to make Ningxi sit next to him. Yenrui and Qin Mufeng sat opposite. At the dining table, except for Ningxi who was feeding Little Bun attentively, everyone else was lost in thought. Of course, the most anticipated thing was whether Little Bun really wanted to talk or not. Finally, Lu Chongshan and Yenrui couldn't hold back any longer. Little Bun, is your body still uncomfortable? Yenrui asked lovingly. Little Bun was currently being fed porridge by Ningxi and did not respond. Yenrui naturally did not mind and continued to show concern. Little Bun, does the porridge taste bad? You're sick, so you can't eat anything too greasy. Grandma will make you something delicious later, okay? Since you're not feeling well, Grandpa asked for leave for you. You don't have to go to school for the next few days. Yenrui and Lu Chongshan talked to Little Bun for a long time, but his reaction seemed somewhat slow. He gave very indifferent responses, as if he hadn't heard anything at all. This state worried Yenrui. After finally saying a word, it seemed like he was back to his previous self again. What was going on? Tingxiao, what's wrong with Little Bun? Why does he look so dull? Yenrui anxiously asked. She had looked forward to teasing Little Bun to speak, but now, he hadn't said a word and didn't even react. How could she not be anxious? Lu Chongshan, on the side, frowned and displeasedly said, what do you mean by dull? Little Bun has just recovered from a serious illness. It's normal for his reactions to be a bit slow. In fact, there was a hint of worry in Lu Chongshan's expression that he couldn't conceal. He was worried that after Little Bun had a high fever for so long, there might be some problems with his brain. On the opposite side, Qin Mufeng furrowed his brow slightly, also feeling concerned. Little Bun's condition did seem a bit off. Ningxi, who had just spoiled Little Bun in the room, knew very well that he was perfectly fine. However, in front of Lu Chongshan and Yenrui, her identity was awkward. Saying the wrong word could cause trouble for herself. It was better not to speak, so she remained invisible, focusing only on feeding Little Bun. Although Lu Tingxiao knew nothing, he appeared calm and unruffled, not showing any signs of impatience. He glanced at his son, who was obediently drinking porridge in Ningxi's arms, and casually said, Little Bun, Aunt Xiaoxi's hair has something dirty. Little Bun, who was currently buried in eating his porridge, suddenly jolted and looked at Aunt Xiaoxi's hair. His soft little hands fumbled around. After searching for a while and not finding anything, he looked anxiously at Daddy, his big eyes filled with urgency, asking, where is it? Lu Tingxiao picked up a piece of boneless fish with a pair of chopsticks and said casually, I was mistaken. The great demon king was so cunning. Is it okay to deceive a child like this? However, with Lu Tingxiao's reminder, they finally understood. Little Bun was still recovering from a serious illness, and his reactions might be a bit slow due to physical weakness. But his brain and responses were completely fine and smart. It's just that he only reacted to things he cared about. Lu Chongshan and Yen Rui exchanged glances, and their expressions were somewhat unsightly. Indeed, forcing Little Bun to stay with them and restricting him from seeing Ning Shi seemed to have caused him to develop a psychological aversion to them. Seeing the heavy atmosphere at the dining table, Qin Mufeng felt that he, as a psychologist, should play a role. So, he cleared his throat, took out pen and paper, wrote a word on the paper, and then placed it in front of Little Bun, coaxing gently, "Little Bun, do you know how to pronounce this word?" On the paper, Qin Mufeng wrote the word she, as in Ning Shi's she. He actually tempted Little Bun to speak like this. Lu Chongshan and Yen Rui showed a bit of admiration. Indeed, a professional psychologist. Lu Tingxiao lightly glanced at the word and tilted his head, saying seemingly casually, "Little Bun, Aunt Xiao she has something dirty in her hair." Everyone stared at Little Bun under the tense gaze. Under the watchful eyes of everyone at the table, Little Bun first gave Qin Mufeng a very subtle look, then picked up the pen and wrote down, 11. After that, he threw the pen aside, raised his little head, looked at Ning Shi, and gestured for her to continue feeding him. Pfft! Ning Shi, who had been silent for a night, couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Little Bun, you're too naughty. But you're even cuter now, what should I do?" Qin Mufeng almost wanted to bang his head on the table. His brilliance in this lifetime had been ruined by this little rascal. Although Qin Mufeng had been given the cold shoulder by Little Bun, Lu Chongshan and Yen Rui's expressions improved significantly. Their worries about Little Bun suffering brain damage were completely dispelled. They knew that Little Bun was clever. The little guy's subtle look at Qin Mufeng just now was obviously intentional. The more they looked at Little Bun, the more he resembled Lu Tingxiao when he was a child. Although he didn't like to speak, he was a little quiet and reserved. The two elders looked at Little Bun with eyes full of love and pride. Qin Mufeng could only silently spit blood on the side. Well, he had sacrificed himself, but at least he contributed to highlighting the little ancestor's intelligence, right? In the end, the meal was finished in a relatively harmonious atmosphere. However, there was undoubtedly a sense of regret among everyone because, from beginning to end, no matter how they tried to probe, Little Bun didn't say a word. After dinner, Ningxi knew they must have something to discuss, so she took Little Bun back to their room first. "Now what do we do?" Little Bun still doesn't want to talk. Yen Rui sighed with a tone of sorrow, and Lu Chongshan's face was also quite serious. In order to save face, Qin Mufeng explained professionally, "It's actually easy to understand. Little Bun doesn't want to speak because there's always a shadow in his heart, and his subconscious keeps him in a state of self-protection and vigilance. However, when he is completely relaxed, in the presence of someone he fully trusts, and all conditions are met, he will naturally speak, even without any guidance. In this regard, it's consistent with my previous judgment." "Do you mean that to make Little Bun speak, we still have to rely on that?" Lu Chongshan cleared his throat, finally no longer using terms like, "that woman, we still have to rely on Ningxi?" Qin Mufeng nodded, "You can understand it that way. Ningxi is a crucial factor, even a decisive one." In fact, Qin Mufeng had said similar things many times before, but unfortunately, Lu Chongshan was too stubborn and never listened. From full hope to the current result, Lu Chongshan and Yen Rui couldn't help feeling a bit disappointed. Yen Rui sighed, comforting herself, so many doctors have seen him before, all saying the situation is not optimistic. They said there was a high possibility that Little Bun would never be able to speak again in his life. Now at least we have proven that making Little Bun speak is entirely possible. Lu Chongshan nodded, "Yes, this is a good thing." After saying that, Lu Chongshan glanced at his eldest son, "You come with me." In the study. After a moment of silence, it seemed that Lu Chongshan was making an important decision. After a while, he finally spoke, "Take Little Bun with you." Lu Tingxiao was not surprised by Lu Chongshan's decision. However, it was better that his father could change his mind on his own in the end. He had never expected that Little Bun would suddenly start speaking. "During this time, I haven't taken good care of Little Bun, and it's my responsibility. However, now I'm handing Little Bun over to you, but it doesn't mean I completely trust you. If anything happens to Little Bun while he's with you, I will immediately take him back, and you must not have any objections then. Do you agree to this?" Lu Chongshan's face was serious. Lu Tingxiao nodded, "Okay." Lu Chongshan turned away, waved his hand impatiently, as if afraid he might regret it, "Go." In Little Bun's bedroom. Ningxi held Little Bun in her arms, and her mind uncontrollably started brewing the steal Little Bun plan again. Although she had delayed it for a while, sooner or later, she would have to part ways with Little Bun. Damn it, she would take Little Bun and roam the world. While lost in her thoughts, a deep voice came from beside her. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "Stealing Little Bun." Ningxi blurted out. "Heh." The man chuckled. Only then did Ningxi realize that the person speaking was the Demon King. She raised her head in horror. Oops. She actually blurted out the outrageous idea of stealing the crown prince. Together? Lu Tingxiao suddenly asked an apparently unrelated question. Ningxi was stunned for a moment. After realizing what he meant, her cheeks suddenly turned red. The Demon King actually asked her if she wanted to steal both the big and little buns together. This was too unfair. Ahem, actually, she really wanted to. Finally, Lu Tingxiao stopped teasing her. He spoke, "Let's go." "Go?" Ningxi's expression suddenly turned gray. Finally, it was time to leave. Little Bun also sensed something, holding on to Ningxi tightly and staring at his dad with vigilance. Under the pitiful gaze of the big and small, Lu Tingxiao's eyes softened. "Let's go together." Even after they were already in the car, Ningxi still couldn't believe it. She was actually leaving the old house with Little Bun in her arms. It felt like a dream. Happiness came so suddenly. It seemed that Lu Tingxiao had finally successfully negotiated with his parents. Ningxi sighed heavily. After Little Bun returned to the Platinum Palace, it would be much more convenient for her to visit him. However, what she didn't expect was that the final result would surprise her even more. Lu Tingxiao directly instructed Cheng Feng to drive the car to her apartment building, then opened the car door, letting her and Little Bun get out. "What is this?" Ningxi was completely confused. Lu Tingxiao looked at the girl in front of him, then glanced at his son who was still sticking to her protectively. He casually said, "No need to steal, I can give him to you." "Nanny?" This time, Ningxi was truly dumbfounded. What did the Demon King mean? Was he going to give Little Bun to her directly? This was your son, for heaven's sake. How could you casually say you're giving him away? Is he really your biological son? Although, this was what she had been dreaming of. Now he was actually giving Little Bun to her without the need to steal? Hearing that he was going to be given away, Little Bun, who had been in a daze, didn't show any sadness about being abandoned by his biological father. Instead, his big eyes instantly lit up with joy. "Great. Dad is giving me away." Seeing her son's expression of pure joy, completely unbothered by being abandoned by his real father, Lu Tingxiao was somewhat helpless. Cough cough, boss, you were just joking, right? Ningxi asked with a dry laugh. Lu Tingxiao picked up his son and walked directly towards the apartment, proving with his actions that he was serious. At the door, Lu Tingxiao reminded the still stunned Ningxi, "Open the door." Oh. Ningxi quickly took out the keys and opened the door. After entering the house, Lu Tingxiao put his son down and said, "You shouldn't have any work arrangements recently. Let Little Bun stay with you for a while. If something comes up suddenly, call me, and I'll have Yuan Shu come over to take care of Little Bun." Lu Tingxiao's words dispelled all of Ningxi's concerns. The Demon King was simply too considerate. Too gentle. She really wanted to give herself to him. Little Bun innocently thought that his dad was really giving him to Auntie Xiaoxi. When he heard that it was only for a short time, he suddenly became a little unhappy, wearing an expression of being deceived. He thought his dad was giving him away to Auntie Xiaoxi. Dad is a big liar. Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows slightly, giving his son a meaningful look. It meant that he had given him the opportunity, and whether he could stay with Auntie Xiaoxi for a lifetime depended on his performance. Little Bun pursed his lips, looking serious. He could definitely do it. Relying on Dad was useless, destiny had to be in his own hands. Seeing his son's determined expression, Lu Tingxiao nodded in satisfaction, showing no sign of guilt for using his own son's sense of guilt. Very well, this ace card had finally been smoothly delivered to his wife's side. Ningxi, who had no idea that she had fallen into the Demon King's trap, was filled with joy at the thought of being able to live with Little Bun in the future. "It's late, I'll leave now. You two rest early," Lu Tingxiao said, reluctantly, but he had to bid farewell. Ningxi's expression changed slightly when she heard this. As Lu Tingxiao was about to leave after instructing his son, Ningxi hurriedly stopped him. "Wait. Is there something else?" Lu Tingxiao asked, pausing his steps. Yes. Well." Ningxi scratched her head, feeling a bit awkward. "Lu Tingxiao, can you stay tonight?" Lu Tingxiao's calm face instantly turned into surprise. The coldness in his clear eyes ignited into a fiery glow as he looked at the girl. If it weren't for Little Bun being present, Ningxi's words could easily be interpreted as a somewhat ambiguous invitation. Even though he knew she didn't mean that, he couldn't help but be ignited by her words. Ningxi naturally realized that her words might be inappropriate and hastily explained, Little Bun just recovered from his illness. Although the doctor has checked and said he's fine, there's still a possibility of recurrence. I'm worried that if... After all, it was related to Little Bun's health, and she dared not be careless, especially since it was her first time taking care of a child alone. She felt a bit anxious. Lu Tingxiao understood Ningxi's concerns. Looking at the girl's dependent gaze, the fiery glow in his eyes turned into a warm temperature from the depths of his heart. All right. Ningxi breathed a sigh of relief, and her uneasiness disappeared. Then, let me prepare the bed for you. The guest room has never been used, and everything is new. You can stay there directly. It's just that the clothes for changing. I'll have someone send them over, Lu Tingxiao said. Oh, okay. With Lu Tingxiao staying, the anticipated private world of the two was broken. Little Bun's young heart received another hit. Lu Tingxiao rubbed his son's little head, his lips slightly curved. Then, he earnestly reminded him, don't forget, we're allies. In an alliance, not only do we cooperate, but we also share benefits together. So, no monopolizing. Little Bun looked indignant but couldn't retort. He stomped away to the guest room to seek comfort from Auntie Xiaoxi. Dad is bullying me again.